of Essex and Suffolk. In 1863, a rectory was built here, and just about every strange phenomena have been reported over the years.
So, Peter Underwood, you are president of the Ghost Club in England, which makes you one of the leading ghost hunters. And here we are at Borley Rectory, one of the most haunted houses in the country. Is that right?
Well, yes, but we're not actually at Borley Rectory, because Borley Rectory stood over there and is no longer there. But I'm quite convinced, beyond any shadow of doubt, that the house that stood just across the road was and fully lived up to its name as the most haunted house in England.
Why are you convinced?
The accumulation of evidence over the years is absolutely shattering. It all began with a legend, and of course the most familiar aspect of the haunting is a ghost nun, which has been seen for something like, well, nearly 100 years. One of the rectors even bricked up one of the windows because he said the phantom nun looked in at him having his breakfast. But over the years, phantom figures have been seen, footsteps have been heard, solid, heavy footsteps on floorboards. Messages have been scribbled on the walls and on pieces of paper, apparently from a French nun asking for light, mass and prayers. Bones have been found, 2 skulls have been found, one was buried in the churchyard, the other...
Were they identified as women or female? Or
one of them was identified as a young female, and it's rather interesting because a dental surgeon discovered that there was a deep-seated abscess in the jawbone, and nearly all the people who have reported seeing the nun have said that she appeared sad-faced, unhappy, and of course with a deep-seated abscess she would indeed.
So really we're talking about a ghost of a nun with toothache?
That's what it sounds like, yes, yes. But putting all that on one side, the fact remains we've got the incumbencies of 4 rectors from 1863 rather, until 1935. 4 rectors, their families, wives, many friends and relatives, all of whom assert that they heard, saw and felt things which they can't explain. And I think the cumulative evidence is absolutely overwhelming that this was indeed the most haunted house in England. It was in 1937 that when the Smiths were here, Smith had recently come to England from India, and he just walked into this and he wondered what was happening. He saw a figure, he saw a phantom coach, his lights suddenly blared up, bells rang. He didn't know what to do, and he wrote to the national paper, and they sent down Harry Price, who was the leading psychic investigator at that time. And of course he was fascinated once he heard the story and started making inquiries. The ecclesiastical authorities decided that the house was no longer suitable for a rector to live in, and Price decided to rent it. And he rented the place for a year, arranged independent investigators who again reported identical phenomena: footsteps, lights, noises, bell ringing and so on. And then the place was sold privately to a Crackton Grigson, and while he owned it, a somewhat mysterious fire took place and the place was gutted. But the interesting thing is that once the rectory was destroyed and there was no building on the site, then the entities apparently transferred their activities to the church, where visiting rectors have seen figures, have heard noises. Many visitors have reported footsteps following them up the church path inside the church itself.
At Epping, working on the M11 motorway extension, is one of Borley's most remarkable witnesses. Mr. Crewe Hollingsworth and a team of investigators taped recordings in the church and spent many nights observing the rectory grounds.
I got a team together with Roy Potter, and we did actually on the site of the rectory. We concentrated mostly.
So have you seen anything there?
Oh yes, in June, I can't remember the exact date, but in June we sighted the nun.
You did?
Oh yes, there are 2 of us.
What time of day?
I would say somewhere about 1:45 in the morning it was. It was absolutely full moon. And first of all, we couldn't really, we were astonished. But when we saw this apparition go through bushes and through railings and across a trench, we knew we were really onto something. So we had an observation actually 11 minutes, and I had a...
How long?
11 minutes.
You watched a ghost for 11 minutes?
11 minutes, exactly. Well, I wouldn't say exactly, but around about 11 minutes. 9 to 11 minutes. Now, this, I had a wonderful view of her, because she came towards me, and then she stood still for some time, and I was able to have a good look at the nun. She actually started on the original old nun's walk, which is in the back garden of some people's bungalow. And she disappeared in the back part of their bungalow, and then she reappeared and came across into the rectory part. Actually, she finished up behind the rectory and disappeared in some shrubs there. The nun, when she's looking at you, she's not seeing you at all. She's not seeing you. Even when she was supposed to stand in the old days of Harry Price, stand looking in the rectory window, she's not seeing the rectory. She's in her own period. She is seeing something that's there in her period. And that's why she appeared about a foot from the ground, which I...
She wasn't on the ground?
Well, she was a foot above it. Now, this was due, I'm sure, to the original level. Since then, the ground has sunk. So I would say she was at the original level in her
Pretty
period.
weird experience you're telling me about.
Oh, well...
A woman gliding along a foot above the ground for 10 minutes.
Well, it may seem absurd to you, but I'm going by what I saw. And this, of course, has been substantiated by my chief investigator, who is a very hard-headed person, doesn't believe in this type of thing. In fact, her reaction was to throw a brick.
Throw a brick?
Yes,
At her?
Yes, it went right through, actually.
That's an unkind thing to do.
Well, no, I think it was a good thing to do, because it actually proved that it was nothing fake. Actually, I got in contact with a chap called David Ellis, who was at Cambridge University studying on scholarship and psychic research. And Ellis was he was so surprised what we were getting at Borley, and so thrilled. He said, well, now, Luke, have you tried the church? Why not try and do some tape work in that church? And then we concentrated in the church, and we got another person, Jenny Densham, because he was very interested in Borley, and he wanted to see for himself if there was anything at Borley. And he came, and he got some amazing results.
So we'll go in and listen to those recordings. And a warning, do not adjust your television picture. Now, my tape recorder is down by the tomb. What family is this?
This is the tomb of the Waldegrave family, who were associated with the area for many years. And there's a possibility that one of this family is the origin of the figure who's been described as a ghost nun.
How can a Waldegrave be a nun?
Well, the figure has been described as having a veiled headdress, and it's not certain that she's a nun. Also, this tomb has been the scene of a number of inexplicable incidents. People have heard the sound of earth falling, of raps and taps, and even there are some reports of some of the pillars moving. I'm not too happy about that.
Well, maybe this is what we have on this tape. And I'll play it to you now, and we'll see if Coombe Hollingworth got anything like you were talking about.
Our investigation was to be carried out in the church, and we came armed with tape recorders. We left the two recorders running on their own inside the building. Before locking the machines in, we searched the building. This session proved to be the most exciting one, for we firmly believe we recorded the sound of a ghost stepping forward and opening something which sounds like a door. At first, we thought we'd recorded the sound of the chancel door being opened, so we investigated this possibility. But neither of these sounds in any way seems to match the ghostly one. Nothing in the vicinity of the altar that we could find could account for the strange recording. We were so intrigued by these events that we returned to the church the following Saturday and spent the entire night there. Having searched the building once more, we locked the machines in. And already the atmosphere seemed to be changing. Two of the team said they felt they were being watched by somebody. Now follows the most remarkable sound of all. For quite clearly, the center microphone picked up what obviously is a human sigh. After this, we decided to break the sequence of visits and to try again during summer conditions. We started recording about 1 a.m., and the first tapes revealed the natural ambience of the building and nothing else. But as we entered the church at about 1:45, we all felt a change in atmosphere. I had a definite tingle pulsing through my body, and a feeling as though a presence were pressing against my back. And yet there was nothing horrific about it. We felt certain, however, that this run would produce results, and we were right. It's the most surprising sound we've heard to date, and we were able to locate it as originating just in front of the altar rail. there is anybody in this church who is trying to communicate with us, we'd be grateful if you would try and do something tonight. Perhaps you could give us some indication of how we can help you. At about 3:20 in the morning, we picked up the sound of faint rapping. The team made another random visit at the end of August. A watch was kept throughout the night on the chancel door, and this proved worthwhile, for in the small hours a glow was observed around the door, as though a phosphorescent aura were emanating. On this occasion, the church produced yet another sound. This ended with a rather more frightening sigh. For the fifth visit, it was decided to keep the church manned with observers throughout the entire night. On previous occasions, we'd obtained the best results by leaving the equipment locked inside on its own, and we wondered whether the human presence might have some adverse effect on conditions. At about 4:10 in the morning, 3 of us kept watch on the choir stall adjacent to the altar. This was to be a memorable and frightening occasion. For most of the period, there were odd clicks and taps generated in the area of the font. But as it was extremely dark, we could see nothing. Then we began to see tiny points of light hovering on the curtain behind the font and on one of the pews about a quarter of the way down the church. At first, we thought we couldn't believe our own eyes, and each one of us thought we were suffering from fatigue, until we broke the silence to speak about it.
I think I must be getting tired and I keep seeing things.
And Jerry, are you watching Peter with the curtain light?
And the pews, the first few pews.
Yes, that's where I'm seeing them.
It lights up a lot. And it flashes on and off, a big story, really.
Yes, I saw one just then too.
The main one is up in the curtain.
Hey?
On the right-hand side, right in the curtain.
Very curious, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, there's one on pew again, then.
Yeah.
No, you're not seeing things, Peter. The 3 of us can see them, so it obviously exists, whatever it is. It's a strange phenomenon. It's stripped this time, isn't it? Now, that was fantastic. We've no idea what that was. It certainly made all of us jump, as though some object had been thrown down. It's curious that that seems to have been tied up, but you're getting colder and colder. It's like a build-up of power. After a while, we realized the lights were coming closer to us. But although we stuck our ground, there were no further audible disturbances in the church, and the lights eventually vanished. As to what they mean, it's anybody's guess. But whatever they are physical. The microphones proved that.
Would you say that, as an expert, that these are things that are happening outside that people are observing, or that they're things that they are projecting from their own minds and think they're seeing?
Well, there I really go back to this atmospheric photograph theory. See, if we don't know really, but it may be that all our thoughts,
but what do you
all
think?
our actions may be recorded on some sort of eternal tape. And under certain conditions, maybe climatic conditions, maybe in the presence of certain people, occasionally they reappear. We just don't know. I don't honestly think that the figures that are seen represent an afterlife. I think it's much more likely that it's some kind of echo of previous life.